The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
What's going on, everybody? Eric Frandsen. Friday football night. High school, college. Big games in both tonight. Tomorrow, a lot of games in college football. And on Sunday, interesting weekend will be in the NFL. A big-time matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Looks like Darwin Thompson's going to get an opportunity to get some more touches, more carries for the Chiefs. That should be a really, really good matchup. And you got some ranked teams involved in college football tonight. As we just heard, Utah is at USC. And then Boise State is hosting Air Force tonight. We'll hear more about the Mountain West matchups coming up in about 30 minutes from now, this week in the Mountain West. And so a quick look at who's playing where, what's going on, what's happened in the last week, what's happening this weekend in the Mountain West. So stay tuned for that coming up a little bit later on this hour. Also get into some of those juicy matchups in college football. But again, the top story, the big story of the day that we have been hearing about and more important people are weighing in on is the big news about Antonio Brown being released from the New England Patriots. So big news there in the NFL. His time there only lasted about 11 days. And so it was a very short period of time. More and more allegations have surfaced about inappropriate behavior, inappropriate text messages that have been going on to some people that are accusing him of bad behavior, inappropriate behavior. And so the Patriots are just saying, hey, we've had enough. Just not worth it to do this anymore. And so it's been, wow, what a roller coaster the last 6 weeks for Antonio Brown. Between the frozen feet to the whole helmet debacle to recording conversations with his coach and then all the crazy things he was putting on social media, like he was begging to get released by the Oakland Raiders. Eventually they did release him, and within an hour, Patriots signed him, and he appears to be a model citizen. And then a short time later, more allegations start to surface, but these are of a other type. Somebody accusing him of sexual misconduct, a former trainer. And then somebody else, there's a report from Sports Illustrated this week about some more inappropriate behavior that happened in Pennsylvania about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And he was sending threatening messages to them, to their lawyer, to keep things quiet. So a lot of stuff coming out about Antonio Brown over the last week. And just the house of cards has fallen for him, and the Patriots have excused him. They've cut him loose. He's no longer on their team. But will he play again in an NFL jersey on an NFL team? I don't know. Perhaps. He's a very talented wide receiver. There's no question about that. But until he gets himself figured out and dialed in to not being involved in all this crazy off the field stuff, I don't know that teams or how many teams will want to bring him in and be a part of their squad. So that's the big news today. Certainly the Patriots have a lot of other weapons at their disposal on their offense, talented players for Tom Brady to throw to. But with Antonio Brown in the mix, it looked like this was a team that was going to be able to embark on something pretty incredible this year. But I think they'll still have a good season. He's not going to make or break the New England Patriots this year. But still, a lot of craziness and silliness from Antonio Brown over the last little while. But Will Kane kind of weighing in on this, and there's a lot of questions about whether or not Antonio Brown will play again, if he's guys that can change, or if he is just what he is, and this leopard isn't going to change his spots.
I said several times throughout this process that tigers do not change their stripes. And I think that truism has proved true once again. That's not to convict Antonio Brown of any accusations that have been made against him over the last couple of weeks. That's not to use allegations of sexual assault and rape as the nail in the coffin of Antonio Brown's career. Rather, it is the accumulation of Antonio Brown's proven actions and character that have proven too much for professional football.
It's been such a circus. Anyway, it's done, and the Patriots move on, and so will we. As I mentioned, the big showdown in the NFL this weekend between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Pay attention to that one. I think that's going to be probably the biggest game of the weekend to pay attention to. I think there's a couple other interesting contests, matchups like even though the Patriots are favored by 21.5 over the Jets, Adam Gase, when he was at Miami, always found a way to play him tough. So I'm not saying that the Jets are going to be all of a sudden great, because they haven't shown that they're really great, but Lucas Falk in the mix there, worth paying attention to nonetheless, and there'll be some more discussion and to talk about the events from today that's happened. The Giants, with Daniel Jones as the new starting quarterback, has been named. They're going to be at the Buccaneers. That could be an interesting matchup between those teams. The Texans and the Chargers, that's the other one I think is going to be really interesting to keep an eye on this weekend. So interesting landscape in the NFL, some really interesting games worth paying attention to. In college football, in what's going on in some ranked teams that are facing off against each other, the biggest, obviously, is the big showdown between Notre Dame and Georgia. Two top 10 teams facing off against each other. And do you buy into this, that Georgia is that much better than Notre Dame? Are they 2 touchdowns better than the Irish? That could be a really interesting matchup between those two teams. It'll be on CBS. The winner is going to be, certainly deserves to be in the discussion of the top 4 in the college football playoff discussion. It's still pretty early in the season, but can you lose this game this weekend and still be part of the discussion later on if you win out? That's going to be an interesting debate. Georgia by 2 touchdowns, I don't know. I don't know that I drink the Kool-Aid there for the Bulldogs. We'll see. I think that Notre Dame keeps that game a lot closer than that. I think another really interesting to be paying attention to, which some are saying is worth paying attention to more so than that game, is the Michigan at Wisconsin. 2 teams that are very close to each other in the polls, very evenly matched. Michigan, if they want to be one of those dark horse teams that some people have talked about as a team to look at as a contender to be in the college football playoff system this year, these types of games need to distinguish themselves and to set themselves apart. It's an early test for the Wolverines. Wisconsin's had a good program as well. This is an opportunity for both teams to stand out. An early conference game for the both of them. Games being played at Camp Randall Stadium. It's going to be early, so you wake up, have some breakfast, turn on Fox at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and watch Michigan at Wisconsin. Number 11 at number 13. A couple other ones that are be worth paying attention to in college football. Tomorrow is a little bit later on in the day is Auburn at Texas A&M. Auburn got away and beat Oregon in the opener, kind of surprised some people. This is an Auburn team that's done better than some people expected them to be. And Texas A&M, meanwhile, just 2-1 on the year. This is a team that's trying to rebound and find their way after losing to Clemson in week 2 and demolished their week 3 opponent. And so they've had some kind of tough games on their schedule outside of Clemson. So this will be a really good test to see if this team is for real, can be worth respecting, or if they're just a function of their 2 wins have been against some really poor competition. Meanwhile, Auburn, good start for them, beating Oregon, beat Tulane in week 2. As we saw, Tulane had a great game last night, and then they beat up on Kent State last week. So a big showdown for Auburn and Texas A&M. Again, that's going to be 1:30 Saturday. That'll be on CBS. UCF, if they're for real, they're going to be at Pittsburgh on the road. It'll be on ABC and ESPN2. But another one worth paying attention to is a little bit closer to home. This game will be in Provo. It'll be BYU hosting the University of Washington. And Chris Peterson, certainly familiar with the Cougars in his time when he was at Boise State. And he weighed in on having to go up against Zach Wilson and what he thinks about that BYU offense.
I think the quarterback makes him better. He's a really good player. He's super athletic. Gets the ball out quick. He's got some moxie to him. I mean, so I think that on offense. So they are significantly different there.
Washington 2-1 on the season so far. They had that weird game against Cal. It was a late night game. They lost by 1, 20-19. It upset what they felt like type of season they could have. I think they could still have a really good year. In fact, the path for them is a little bit easier until they get into the late part of the schedule, and it starts to get a lot more challenging. But BYU, their win against USC, is that real, or was that a fluke? But for BYU, 2 straight overtime victories against Power 5 schools, and certainly have to give some respect to that and what they were able to do, and both on the road and at home. Tennessee hasn't shown to be very good. USC was a top 25 team at the time. USC is hosting Utah tonight. We'll see just what that Trojan team looks like. But anyway, that game between BYU and Washington, 1:30 on Saturday, and that'll be on ABC. So a big showdown for the Cougars and the Huskies. They've had some interesting battles over the years in different times when they've faced each other. And then another one interesting to pay attention to on ABC a little bit later on in the day on the same channel, Oklahoma State at Texas. Texas struggled against LSU, an opportunity for them to rebound and to see if they're a little bit better. They defeated Rice easily, but a big showdown with Oklahoma State, who has not lost yet on the year. They're knocking on the door of creeping into the top 25. So that game will be 5:30 on ABC. Anyway, some interesting matchups that are going on through college football throughout the day, as you won't have an Aggie game to pay attention to or watch until later in the evening. There's a lot of really good football to watch as the day unfolds, starting at 10 a.m., bright and early. Some interesting games going on just tonight as well. Utah at USC. Again, that's at 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. And then Air Force at Boise State, also at 7 o'clock. That'll be on ESPN2. All right, coming up next here on the Full Court Press, interesting decisions in the NBA between NBA owners. They had their Board of Governors meeting today. They voted on some things. They voted on specifically whether or not to enhance the penalty for basically tampering when it comes to free agents. That was a big topic over the last year in the NBA, not only with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the middle of the season, but also how was it that at soon as the clock struck the designated time you could start talking to free agents, that all of a sudden there was a flood of contracts already agreed upon within hours of that window opening in the NBA. So clearly it's had a lot of people upset, a lot of owners wanting change. They got together, they voted on it. We'll tell you how they voted, and some other things that Adam Silver had to say about some recent developments in the NBA. That's coming up next right here on the Full Court Press.
Win a 65-inch 4K flat-screen TV from Lynn's Audio Video in the Preps Pick'em Contest, presented by The Logo Shop. Sign up to play at 1069thefan.com. Pick the weekly winners of each high school game, and you could win one of 11 weekly prizes and be entered to win the grand prize TV. Go to 1069thefan.com, and you could win. It's the Preps Pick'em Contest on Sports Talk Radio, 1069 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Logo Shop, the Logo Shop, we logo stuff. Advertising specialties for pros that really know. Total customer satisfaction, prices that are low. One-stop design delivered, great selection too. Customized just for you. Yeah. Shop, the Logo Shop, we logo stuff. The Logo Shop.
It's the Who's Hot student athlete.
Scout Morris from Skyview is this week's Who's Hot student athlete. Scout is a senior, plays wide receiver and strong safety for the Bobcats football team. Scout was a key part of the Bobcats' success last season and looks to continue that success this season as a starting senior. Scout Morris, you are this week's Who Hot student athlete. Remember, every Thursday is 2 for $35 at Who Hot. That's 2 endless stir fry, 2 drinks, an appetizer, and dessert for only $35 at the Logan Who Hot only.
This is Jeff John, head golf professional at Logan River Golf Course. It's time once again for our fall golf special. Play all day long, 7 days a week for $50 per player, including cart. After 2 o'clock, play all the golf you can with a cart for $25. Or try this special. Try our off-season season pass September 16th through March 1st, 2020. Get this off-season pass for $275 walking or $415 with a cart. Logan River Golf Course. Play fast, play fair, play well.
2 kids, 1 paycheck. But I'm still gonna send them to college. With Sam, I can.
Business has fallen off at work, but I'm getting prepared for whatever the future holds. With Sam, I can.
I missed a mortgage payment, but now I'm turning things around. With Sam, I can.
Making ends meet on a tight budget, coping with job loss, struggling with overwhelming credit card bills. Whatever your financial challenge, with Sam, you can. Sam is Smart About Money, a free online resource from the National Endowment for Financial Education. We're an independent nonprofit foundation dedicated to helping people just like you get sound information about money. From everything from how to build an emergency fund to how to deal with job uncertainty, just remember, Sam I Can. SamICan.org.
I'm gonna feel in control again. With Sam, I can.
Get empowered. Reach your financial goals. Visit SamICan.org.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
The environment we operate in is constantly changing, and that's why we're making adjustments as we go, and that's why we continue to talk to the players about these issues.
That's NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. The environment is changing. That's why we need to change as well. A lot has been made about tampering, and it's a problem, suggesting benefits beyond what you would normally get in a contract or under the collective bargaining agreement, as has been rumored with how it was that Kawhi Leonard was able to go to the Clippers and to make that happen. So anyway, Adam Silver got together with the Board of Governors, all the owners get together, and there were proposals to make it harder or the penalties more dramatic if you are caught tampering, and also strengthen the opportunity to investigate whether or not tampering was taking place. So the proposal was that the fine would go from $5 million up to $10 million, and that you could lose a draft pick, you could have a general manager or a management suspended. So top team officials would be required to save communications with agents for up to a year. and that randomly 5 teams would be audited, their communications with rival front offices and player agents would be audited. So 5 random teams every year, and would give them opportunity to have additional in-depth investigations beyond those audits. So how did they vote? Well, they voted unanimously. Nobody wanted to be the team that said, I don't want to have you looking into my business. Don't want to be the team that says, I want to be able to have a little more autonomy here. So they all were on board. They're all agreeing to subject themselves to additional scrutiny. And like I said, if you're found to have been involved with communicating inappropriately in a way that discussing contracts or deals or other things not related to the collective bargaining agreement that are there, like ownership in companies or things like this that are outside of the realm of basketball, different benefits that don't relate to basketball operations, then an executive could be suspended. You could lose draft picks. Contracts could be voided when rules are not followed. So teams have to save their communications for up to a year. And anyway, it's needed. It's overdone. It was needed a while ago. But Adam Silver weighing in on this at a press conference after the meeting today in New York, saying this should increase the likelihood that they will catch anybody that's skirting the rules.
I think if someone is absolutely determined to cheat in any industry and people are willing to do anything to be successful, I guess you have rogue actors in every field and in every industry. I think what we're saying, though, is that we believe through these tools, we think we're dramatically going to increase the likelihood that we're going to catch you.
And they said that they have some tools that even if you try to use different means of communications, that the NBA also has tools that can decipher those types of communications. Now, if somebody is dead set on still skirting the rules and getting around this, they can still pick up a phone and do a conversation. You'll have a recording that the call was made, but what if the same agent represents multiple players? And what if an agent represents a player who's on your team and represents a player that you're interested in that's on another team? You could arrange to have that player at that agent's place and have conversations on the phone. And when they look at the phone records, you can just say, yeah, we're just talking to him about our guy. You could arrange to meet each other at a different site, different location, face-to-face. There's no records of that. So there are ways around it. But I do applaud the NBA for trying to clamp down on this. There were just a bunch of deals that appeared to be agreed upon and set and understood that the second 6:01 p.m. Eastern Time hit on June 30th, there was a flurry of deals that were agreed upon. How is that possible? Within 24 hours, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars of deals already agreed upon and verbalized. This is what was going to happen. So I give them credit for trying to rein this in and trying to make it more serious. Look, we gotta have more balance here. And the player, Adam Silver talked about that too. The players want this to be balanced. They want it to be competitive.
For the 450 players or so in the league, they want a competitive landscape as well. They don't necessarily want a system where there's a sense that certain teams have a competitive advantage over other teams, because then you're just benefiting the players that happen to be at those teams.
Yeah. You don't think the players aren't paying attention to this? You end up on a team that is perennially not going to have a chance to land the top guys. You want to be able to have that sense of hope that you could be on a team that maybe this isn't your year, but next year it could be. Another part of this, too, that was discussed, as Adam Silver talked about, was what he calls player empowerment. This is something that players want more ability to make their own decisions. And we're kind of seeing this as a trend that is opposite of baseball. In baseball, the trend is a player signs one contract for a really long time. And it's this huge, bloated contract. Hundreds of millions of dollars tied to one player for over a decade. In the NBA, it's going the other direction. Players want to sign shorter contracts so they have the ability to move around if they want.
In some cases, what is being viewed as player empowerment is simply the rights that they have under the collective bargaining agreement. It's not empowerment or not. It's that we sat across from the union, we negotiated certain rights for players, and teams have certain rights. For example, contracts, especially from the time period you were talking about earlier, have come down significantly in length. It's two-sided. When contracts are shorter, players become free agents more often. Some people view that as player empowerment. I just view that as the operation of the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, how this trend continues will be interesting. But if players sign shorter deals to give themselves a chance to move around a little bit more, they have the potential of losing out on more money. But at the same time, the money in professional sports has gotten so ridiculous that I think these players realize, look, I can still make a ton of money and be okay for me, my family, my kids, my grandkids. But I want to have the maximum flexibility to go where I want to go and play with whom I want to play with. And I think that's going to become more and more of a thing for players than what's tantalizing about the biggest contract. There'll still be ego out there. Guys will still do that just to say they have the biggest contract. That'll never go away. But the money has gotten so big that the allure of playing with whom you want to play with in a city you want to play at, for an organization you want to play with, I think you see more and more shorter contracts in the NBA. One other thing real quick from Adam Silver and their meetings today. The league did discuss a more formal definition of a player gathering his dribble as they're trying to figure out how to be more consistent in traveling calls. So here is from NBA President of League Operations, Byron Spruill, in a statement. It says, one of the most misunderstood rules in our game is how traveling is interpreted and appropriately called. Revising the language of certain areas of the rule is part of our three-pronged approach to address the uncertainty around traveling. Okay. So they didn't say expressly what it is for us, but they're trying to be more clear on how to call it, which I applaud, because some referees call it very differently. Some are much more loose and allow more steps and more movement than should be necessary. So any interesting things coming out of the NBA meetings today. Big weekend in high school football, college football, NFL. We'll find out what's going on in the Mountain West coming up here next. But stay tuned to CashValleyDaily.com. Later tonight, we'll have the scores for all Region 11 football teams and everybody else in the area. And stay tuned for that. Coming up next, this week in the Mountain West.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the premier ear, nose, and throat clinic in northern Utah, is excited to announce the opening of their second location in Providence, 169 North Gateway, right next to the Bank of Utah. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat also welcomes Dr. Zachary Robinette to their practice. The Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat Clinic inside Cache Valley Hospital and now in Providence. Most insurance products, including Select Med, are accepted. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for details.
How long have you been in your home? If it's less than 5 years, you may have rooms with old furniture or possibly not even furnished. Fisher Home Furnishings wants to help affordably turn your house into a home. Pick out a living room group, a bedroom group with queen mattress, and a 7-piece dining set. Get the whole house full of furniture for only $79 a month. Let me check that price again. Living room, bedroom, and dining set, all for just $79 a month. Stop by Fisher Home Furnishings and ask about the house-to-home options. Shop in-store or anytime online at FisherHF.com.
This is This Week in the Mountain West with Nate Kreckman.
He's in the open, and it looks like he's in. He is!
This is Troy Calhoun, head coach of the United States Air Force Academy.
This is Brian Harsin, head coach of the Boise State Broncos.
Down the left sideline, 20, 10, see ya!
This is Jeff Tedford.
This is Nick Rolovich. This is Jay Norvell, head coach at the University of Nevada.
They'll roll, they'll throw downfield, wide open at the goal line, bobbling, holding, touchdown!
This is Rocky Long.
This is Tony Sanchez.
This is Brent Brennan.
This is Mike Bobo, head coach of the CSU Rams.
Pass on the right side, intercepted! Looking for the home run ball, he's got it!
This is Craig Bull.
This is Gary Anderson. This is Bob Davey, head coach of the University of New Mexico.
He catches it in stride at the 25!
This is Craig Thompson, Commissioner of the Mountain West, and you are listening to This Week in the Mountain West.
All right, welcome into the Week 4 edition of This Week in the Mountain West. I'm your host, Nate Kreckman. 5 more wins in 9 non-conference games last Saturday in Week 3 for the Mountain West. That was highlighted by Air Force's 30-23 overtime win on the road at Colorado of the Pac-12. The Mountain West is now 7-9 this season against Power 5 opponents in non-conference play. Those 7 wins, the most of any conference in the nation, followed by the Big 12 with 6, and then the SEC with 5. So dating back to last season, the Mountain West has now won 11 of their last 20 games against Power 5 opponents. In addition, the Mountain West continues to stack right up with the Pac-12 Conference as the two leagues are 4-4 in 8 matchups this season. There are 35 undefeated FBS programs in college football. 4 of them play in the Mountain West. Boise State, Wyoming, and San Diego State are all 3-0, and Air Force is off to a 2-0 start this season. On top of that, both Hawaii and Nevada sitting at 2-1 after the first 3 weeks of this 2019 season. As for the national polls, Boise State ranked number 20 in both the AP and the coaches polls. At 3-0, Wyoming is earning votes in the coaches poll. Coming up on this week's show, we'll look back at all the Week 3 action, Air Force's big win, the story, and we'll break it all down with the head coach of the Falcons, Troy Calhoun, now in his 13th season at the United States Air Force Academy. It's the Week 4 edition of This Week in the Mountain West, and you have it right here on the Mountain West Radio Network.
This is Jeff Tedford, head football coach of the Fresno State Bulldogs. We'll be back with more of This Week in the Mountain West right after this timeout.
With unrivaled landscapes that provide a quality of life unlike any in the country, you'll find us immersed at the peak of nature's splendor through a gateway of opportunity which leads to academic and personal growth that is beyond compare. Our students learn at the peak of achievement, and as our more than 5,000 student athletes take the field of play with unequaled passion, you'll find us performing at the peak of competition. The Mountain West is at the peak.
Come to play in Las Vegas. See the best in college basketball shine on America's biggest stage. The Mountain West Basketball Championships return to Las Vegas March 1st through 7th. Join the March to Madness at the MW.com/2020 or your team's athletic ticket office. The Mountain West Basketball Championships in Las Vegas. Come to play.
With 12 institutions nestled in the nation's most desirable destinations, you'll see us enjoying life at the peak of celebration. As you witness us not only win, but win the right way, you'll find us competing at the peak of integrity. As our more than 5,000 student athletes take the field of play with unequaled passion, you'll find us performing at the peak of competition. The Mountain West is at the peak.
This is Craig Bull, head coach of the University of Wyoming. Welcome back to This Week in the Mountain West.
Let's recap Week 3 around the Mountain West. Wyoming 3-0 for the first time since 2011. Cowboys beat Idaho 21-16 in Laramie as senior Trey Smith piles up 152 yards and a pair of touchdowns on the ground.
Smith deep in the eye. They'll give it to him. Running right side. Smith gets loose. He's to the 30. He's to the 40. Smith down the far sidelines he goes. He's to the 20, the 10, He is in the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys.
Dave Walsh with the call from Learfield IMG College. Wyoming has now won 7 in a row dating back to last season. Game of the week, Air Force at Colorado. First in-state meeting between the Falcons and Buffalo since 1974. Donald Hammond III torching Colorado through the air in the first half.
2nd and 11. Falcons from their own 19. Receivers left and right. Hammond to throw. Fires over the middle. Open. Catch. Waters.
Go!
He's got it.
Go!
And he breaks the tackle. He's in for the touchdown. Donald Hammond from his 19-yard line. And he finds Benjamin Waters for an 81-yard touchdown strike.
Jim Arthur from Learfield IMG College. Big fourth quarter comeback from Colorado forces overtime. Falcons on the first play of OT.
Hammond first down. Option right. Pitches. Remsburg gets a block on the corner. 20, 15, 10, 5. Leads in. Touchdown. Air Force. Just like that. Quick pitch to the right side. Caden Remsburg goes in from 25.
Air Force up 7, Colorado ball, and this is how it would finish.
Montez on 4th down. They've got to convert. 4th and 10. Gets the snap. Looks for Chenault. Left side. Fire is there. Incomplete. 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 Air Force wins it. The Falcons win it. And they knock off Colorado in Boulder by the final of 30-23.
Unreal. What a win for Air Force. Hammond 2 touchdown passes and 1 scoring run. He's your Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week. Much more on this game with Falcons head coach Troy Calhoun coming up later in the show. Boise State would make quick work of Portland State on the blue turf.
6 touchbacks and 13 kicks for Cody Williams. This one's going to be returned from the 1-yard line. It's Hightower. He'll come to the right, get to the 20, gets blocks, now back to the left, to the 30, to the 40. He's going to turn on the Jets, to the 50, to the 40. Adams chasing. He won't get him. 99 yards for Hightower, and the Broncos lead 6-3.
Bob Beeler from Learfield IMG College, 491 total yards and a 45-10 win for number 20 Boise State. Nevada back in the win column, beating Weber State 19-13 in Reno as Toa Taua and Jackson Kincaid combined to rush for 160 yards in the win.
Strong, hands off Kincaid, who bounces outside left. Kincaid to the 30, breaks into the open field. He's at the 10, the 5, touchdown Nevada! Jackson Kincaid, 33 yards out.
John Ramey from Learfield IMG College, the Wolfpack 2-1. San Diego State, your other Week 3 winner, 31-10 at New Mexico State. Colorado State suffers a 55-34 loss on the road at Arkansas. They also lose their quarterback, Colin Hill, to a torn ACL, the 3rd ACL injury of his college career. An emotional Mike Bobo talked about the injury to Hill after the game Saturday.
It's tough. You know, that kid's special. You know, special. Got his knee hurt, and he comes back out there. He's got a headset on. He's encouraging. I mean, he's a special kid, and you know, he's made up of the right stuff.
That audio courtesy of the Fort Collins Coloradoan. Nebraska transfer Patrick O'Brien replaced Hill to finish out the Arkansas game. He's been practicing with the number 1 offense this week in Fort Collins. Redshirt junior Justice McCoy also a possibility for CSU. We'll talk with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun next after these words from your local station.
This is Mike Bobo, head coach of the CSU Rams. We'll be back with more of This Week in the Mountain West right after this timeout.
This is Bruce Rigby from Cache Valley Bank. We're a community bank, and Cache Valley is important to us. That's why we continue to invest in downtown Logan with new expansion. Our mortgage department is moving into a newly remodeled bank building just north of the Tabernacle. We are also remodeling the historic Thatcher Bank building at Center and Main, and we have a very experienced lending team there. With our new Hiram and Smithfield branches, it's now more convenient than ever to bank with us. Growing, expanding, and proud to have our roots firmly planted in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
It's the perfect time to service your fireplace for next season. Get a full inspection and service from one of Advanced Fireplace and Stove's licensed and insured technicians. If you have a Quadra-Fire pellet or wood stove, or a Heat and Glow gas fireplace or another make, they'll inspect it to make sure it's working properly, provide a list of items inspected, and suggest any repairs. Quadra-Fire pellet and wood stoves and Heat and Glow gas fireplaces at Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Your station for local sports.
Sports Talk Radio 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome to the Orphan Diaries. Here is the president of Food for Orphans, Gary Van Dyke.
There are 143 million orphans in the world today, and another child becomes an orphan every 2 seconds. Food for Orphans is helping to end that suffering. Every dollar donated provides 2.5 meals, and every $100 will provide a meal to 250 innocent orphans. That's a real demonstration that someone loves them.
For more information, visit www.foodfororphans.org.
This is Troy Calhoun, head coach of the Air Force Academy. Welcome back to This Week in the Mountain West.
Air Force now 2-0 after winning on the road at Colorado last Saturday, 30-23 in overtime. Huge Mountain Division clash ahead this Friday night at Albertson Stadium against number 20 Boise State. Joining us right now, the head coach of the Air Force Falcons, Troy Calhoun. Coach, welcome to the show. Congratulations on a big win.
It was a good one, Nate.
Coach, looking back on film, what were the biggest reasons you saw as to why your team was able to go on the road and win in a tough environment at Folsom Field there in Boulder?
Well, it was solely one game. I think we know that. You kind of always see where one game one week doesn't really have a whole lot of carryover to another game the next week. But in that particular one, I mean, we played with great effort, great hustle, and had the ball bounce our way a couple of times too, to be honest, and yet at the same time, that's the result of guys being able to pull together and play pretty hard.
There were some turnovers for your team. What did you think of the resiliency of your team against Colorado?
Well, you asked me two different questions right there, and let's address the first one and confront it to no end, because we'll have to be tremendous this week when it does come to the ball security part of it. You just aren't going to get away very often with that being the case and being able to end up with more points than the other team, and so we're all of us know that. Players, coaches, all of us together realize that's the case. Yet at the same time, like you said, I mean, just to be able to persevere. I'll say this: we are in great shape. You know, whoever we play against, they may be bigger, they may run faster 40s, they may be smarter, they may be prettier, they may be. Golly, I mean, everything about it. But we are in great physical shape, and I think that does help.
Donald Hammond, he showed off the downfield accuracy with a pair of touchdown passes as well as scoring once on the ground. He had a nice hole to run through there. What was your assessment of the performance of your junior quarterback?
Yeah, he's getting better and better, Nate. He played some last year. And because of it, there's more consistency, and yet most impressively, just the focus and the work ethic that he has each day at practice.
No sacks of Donald Hammond, and the ground game averaged 5.6 yards on 52 carries. A lot of people talking about that Falcons offensive line after that game. What stood out to you?
Well, they did. You look at those guys, a good number of those guys have played last year. They were young and green and inexperienced, and yet now they're some of the beneficiaries, not only of the playing time that they've had previously, but the amount of work they've done in the weight room too. Now, this week will be a huge test. We play an excellent Boise team. Oh, God, I mean, I think defensively they're like 17% on third down, which is just beyond stupid in terms of how stout that is, and probably the most complete football team we've had in this league in the last 7 years.
That group of Colorado receivers is very good. Jeremy Fedulum, he was everywhere, 14 tackles, Mountain West Defensive Player of the Week. How did you grade out your secondary there against the Buffaloes?
Yeah, they did, Nate. We did a good job in the open field. I mean, just taking good angles, and again, just being able to get a second and a third guy there, just to at least be able to hem in the amount of space that was available for a guy after the catch. And Jeremy, tremendous instincts, a guy that absolutely loves football, and he had a good one, and hopefully he'll have another good one here in a couple of days.
That in-state matchup between Colorado and Air Force, Coach, it had not been played since 1974, despite the two campuses being just 84 miles apart. The Falcons and the Buffs, they will play again in 2022. Is this one that you were glad to see back for Air Force?
I think so. I mean, I think it's good for the state from the standpoint that it just, I think it raises the importance of football, and they're two great schools too. Now, being able to make that work, I know there's some obstacles. Just when it comes to Air Force has 10 games that are locked in every year. Between the two service academies that we play, in addition to the 8 games in the Mountain West Conference, and then on the other side, almost always play Colorado State, darn near every year, and then having 9 league games too.
Boise State, Friday night, going to Albertson Stadium. Coach, what stands out to you when you see this version of the Broncos on film on both sides of the ball?
Well, like I said, I mean, they're just as complete a football team in all 3 facets as I've probably seen, at least in the last 7 years. Maybe you got to go back to 2010. That's why I say within 7 years, that team that Texas Christian had. I mean, these guys are very, very stout up front on both sides of the ball. Tremendous experience and yet incredibly talented too.
More with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun coming up following the Falcons' 30-23 overtime win over Colorado. The 7th win this season for the Mountain West over a Power 5 opponent. We'll continue this conversation next here on the Mountain West Radio Network.
This is Gary Anderson, head coach, Utah State University. We'll be right back with more of This Week in the Mountain West right after this timeout.
With 12 institutions nestled in the nation's most desirable destinations, you'll see us enjoying life at the peak of celebration. As you witness us not only win, but win the right way, you'll find us competing at the peak of integrity. As our more than 5,000 student athletes take the field of play with unequaled passion, you'll find us performing at the peak of competition. The Mountain West is at the peak.
The next big play is just a click away on the Mountain West Network. Join me, Jesse Kurtz, for the latest insight, analysis, and live game action you won't find anywhere else. Catch over 1,500 events for free in HD on the only network that lets you watch any team, anytime, on any device. Go to the MW.com today and get your game on with the Mountain West Network.
Come to play in Las Vegas. See the best in college basketball shine on America's biggest stage. The Mountain West Basketball Championships return to Las Vegas March 1st through 7th. Join the March to Madness at the MW.com/2020 or your team's athletic ticket office. The Mountain West Basketball Championships in Las Vegas. Come to play.
This is Brian Harsin, head coach of the Boise State Broncos. Welcome back to This Week in the Mountain West.
Continuing our conversation with Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun here on the Week 4 edition of This Week in the Mountain West as the Falcons defeated Colorado 30-23 in overtime last Saturday to give the Mountain West their 4th win over a Pac-12 opponent this season. Coach, you're in your 13th year now as the head coach at the Air Force Academy. You've been to 9 bowl games. You've won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy 4 times. Your recruiting practices are unique in college football because of the realities of being a service academy. There are no quick fixes. What is the difference for a really good Air Force team in terms of roster makeup? Is it about veteran upperclassmen players?
Oh, I wish I had that formula exactly, and I have some thoughts, and yet, first and foremost, we're going to respect the standards of the United States Air Force Academy. If that's, the test scores, the GPA, the conduct that's involved as a young person while you're here at the academy, and then certainly the way that you're going to serve if you are able to earn a degree from this school. So, we, and more than anything else, just the raw realities, and we try to make sure that's very, very clear with a young person and even their parents or their family too, just in terms of how hard it is here. I mean, academically, to take 18 or 21 semester hours, the day you walk in the door to begin basic training, that's 5.5 weeks, where the day when you do arrive, we're going to cut all your hair off, we're going to take your phone, and away we go from that point, and so... And then, inevitably, I'm in awe. I really am in terms of the daily schedule for a student here at the Air Force Academy, or cadet, I should say, here at the Air Force Academy, and yet somehow they're still able to be involved in sports and in a really competitive league too. That part's astounding.
Yeah, that part of the job of knowing what your players are doing in service to their country upon graduation, what does that part of the job mean to you in terms of preparing young men and shaping them in the ways that football does?
Well, Nate, I'll say, that's probably the one thing that is kind of neat. Here you sit down with, you look in the eyeballs at Tim Jefferson at Woodward Academy when he's in high school, and lo and behold, here he is, one of the top B-1 pilots in the Air Force right now. Or, you watch Brady Amack make 23 tackles in 2011 back at Navy in an overtime win, and now he's one of the best fighter pilots in all the Air Force. Or Jared Two in 2009 rushes for over 1,000 yards and has been just tremendous as an F-16 pilot. Or Travis Decker was an outstanding tight end. That the Packers said, hey, look, you can play for us after going through some of those initial mini camps, and yet he decides to go to Georgetown and is now a doctor in the Air Force. That's not all bad now.
That's really cool stuff. All right, Coach. 7 wins now this season for the Mountain West Conference against Power 5 opponents after Air Force beat CU. From what you have seen so far and preparing for Boise State, what has stood out to you about this Mountain West Conference so far in 2019?
I really haven't had a chance to see I've seen 2 of them. The one this past Saturday, and then the other one, obviously, the Florida State-Boise State game. Those 2 we have viewed pretty extensively. It takes some, there's some small things that kind of have to fall in place a little bit. I think you better have very veteran teams, because those are probably going to be games that are going to be close. It's rare that you see a 15 or a 20-point win. So you got to have some guys that have been out there and played a lot of football, just situationally, that have great awareness. And but it is it's, and yet you look talent-wise. You look here in recent years, you've had a good number of first-round or high-level draft picks. You think back just 15 months ago. The linebacker that goes to Dallas with the 19th pick, and the quarterback that goes to Buffalo, like with the 6th pick, and in that very same draft, there's a tailback that goes to Seattle, like with the 27th pick. Mm-hmm. So, great talent in this league, and I think more than anything else, the investment that's made by a handful of schools in the sport of football. I think it's obvious at Colorado State that's the case, Boise most certainly, Utah State, and then just the access to talent that's there when it comes to Fresno and San Diego State, too.
Non-conference has been successful. Let's get into conference play. Big one in the Mountain Division Friday night. Air Force at Boise State. The Falcons 2-0 as they get ready to take on number 20 Boise State. Head coach Troy Calhoun. Coach, congratulations on the early success. Best of luck this week.
Okay. Thank you, Nate.
We'll preview the entire Week 4 schedule, which features the first 2 games in conference play of the 2019 season next, after these words from your local station.
This is Jay Norvell, head coach of the University of Nevada. We'll be back with more of This Week in the Mountain West right after this timeout.
It's time to plan your fall home improvement project. You've had ideas on how to spruce up your outdoor space, and nothing is better than a smooth surface to party on. Castellite in Logan has pavers you can install yourself. But if you're not sure how to do it, their in-house professionals can teach you how to do it right. With Castellite, you can turn your outdoor living space into the entertainment capital of the neighborhood. For brick, block, rock, paver, and tile, go where the pros go. Online at Castellite.com.
This is Nate Kreckman with This Week in the Mountain West on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is Brent Brennan, head coach of the San Jose State Spartans. Welcome back to This Week in the Mountain West.
Your Week 4 schedule in the Mountain West commences Friday night. Troy Calhoun's Air Force Falcons on the road at Albertson Stadium to face number 20 Boise State. The Falcons 2-0, the Broncos 3-0. Something has to give. Huge Mountain Division clash. Now in their 9th season in the Mountain West, Boise State has only lost 6 home games in conference play since 2011. One of those losses was to Air Force back in 2015. That was the year that Air Force won the Mountain Division. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN2 and the Watch ESPN app. So your Friday night plans are made. 8 games Saturday starting at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Undefeated Wyoming visits 1-2 Tulsa on CBS Sports Network. Passing game has been slow to get going for the Cowboys, but they are currently 3rd in the conference, piling up 245 yards per game on the ground. Then at 2:30 Mountain, it's the Rio Grande rivalry, New Mexico hosting New Mexico State in Albuquerque. You can watch it on AT&T Sports Network and online on the Mountain West Network, available at the MW.com. Lobos offensive line coach Saga Tuiteli will continue to serve as the acting head coach. Although good news this week, Bob Davie continues to recover from a serious medical incident following the season opener, but he is expected back next week at Liberty. San Jose State on the road at Arkansas at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on the SEC Network and the Watch ESPN app. Spartans coming off a bye, looking for their first ever win over an SEC opponent. At 5 p.m. Pacific, you can stream Nevada at UTEP on ESPN3. Wolfpack struggled to score touchdowns last week against Weber State, but the good news, freshman kicker Brandon Talton, a perfect 8 for 8 kicking field goals this year. That's best in the Mountain West. Weird to say, the West Division favorites and defending conference champion Fresno State Bulldogs are 0-2. But here we are after losses to USC and Minnesota. Great chance to bust into the win column this week as Fresno State welcomes FCS foe Sacramento State to Bulldog Stadium. You'll stream that game on Facebook at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Then at 8:15 Mountain, Colorado State takes on Toledo at Canvas Stadium in Fort Collins on ESPN2 and the Watch ESPN app. Again, the story this week for the Rams, they'll be without starting quarterback Colin Hill the rest of the way as he once again suffers a torn ACL. 7:30 Pacific, 8:30 Mountain. Buckle up for this one over on CBS Sports Network. Utah State at San Diego State. Both the Aggies and Aztecs 5-1 in their last 6 Mountain West openers. And then stay up late for Central Arkansas and Hawaii at Aloha Stadium at 6 p.m. Hawaii time. That's 10 p.m. Mountain. Cole McDonald has thrown 9 touchdown passes for the Rainbow Warriors, but also 8 interceptions after having only 10 picks all of last year. You'll catch that game on Spectrum Sports and stream it on Facebook. UNLV has a bye this week. And that will do it for the Week 4 edition of This Week in the Mountain West. If you missed any of this show, you can listen on SoundCloud on the Mountain West Radio Network page on the MW.com. You can also download the show as a podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn. And of course, follow the Mountain West on Twitter at Mountain West and like the Mountain West Conference on Facebook. I'm Nate Kreckman. Enjoy the first 2 games of conference play this weekend.
This is Craig Thompson, Commissioner of the Mountain West. We'll talk to you next week right here on This Week in the Mountain West.